The Philippines is making inroads in the delivery of healthcare services. The advent of World War II, however, decimated the said advances from the ashes of war. The remnants of the laboratory left by the United States Army started as the seeds towards the modernization of the Philippine medical technology profession. Guided by the Filipinos themselves, saw the desire to uplift the profession and enhance its recognition. PAMET came into being in 1963, holding its very first annual convention in 1964. In just a short span of 5 years, its efforts paid off with the Philippine Medical Technology Act enacted into law. So many illustrious names has added and sheen and brilliance to the practice of medical technology in the country, from pioneers like Dr. Pio de Roda and Dr. Prudencia Santa Ana.
And since the PAMET was founded in 1963, there have already been 14 presidents. This presentation will detail each president's legacy or their contributions to the organization, starting with the first president, Mr. Charlie Main Tamondong, all the way to the current president, Mr. Ronaldo E. Puno.
Mr. Charlemagne T. Tamondong. He succeeded in working for the Bill number 7682 for the medical technologies in the country through the help of the Congressman Jose Moreno and Congresswoman Magnolia Antonio. He worked for the building and recognition of PAMET for public acceptance and for its good social standing. Mr. Nerdito D. Moraleta. He has worked for the passage of Senate Bill number 996 and signed into law by the President of the Philippines, His Excellency President Ferdinand E. Marcos, into Republic Act number 00527 or the Medical Technology Act of 1969 on June 21, 1969. He worked for the registration of PAMET with the Securities and Exchange Commission on October 14, 1969. Mr. Felix E. Asper. He worked for the approval of Presidential Decree number 498, which signed by His Excellency President Ferdinand E. Marcos on June 28, 1974. This is an amendment to Republic Act number 00527. He also had the Philippines Association of Medical Technologies integrated, accredited as bona fide professional organization of medical technologies with the Professional Regulation Commission on May 24, 1975. Mr. Bernardo T. Tabausares. He worked for the amendments to the Thieves Law about salaries of medical professionals, which was in third reading in the Senate when martial law was proclaimed, so the said project died. One of his pet projects was approved by His Excellency President Ferdinand E. Marcos through the help of the presidential assistant, the late Honorable Guillermo de Vaga, proclaiming the third week of September as Medical Technology Week.
Angelina Arose. She worked for the approval of the professional tax through the Bureau of Internal Revenue that all registered medical technologists should pay a professional tax in the amount of 75 pesos yearly. Legacy, career advocacy. Venerable C.V. Oka. She saw to it that monthly medical missions were made as part of the association's services to the poor and unfortunate people in our country. Another was the series of seminars being conducted monthly with different prominent speakers in order to update the profession and the medical technologists who were in the active practice of their profession. Legacy, educational enhancement. Carmencita P. Asedera. She worked for the membership of PAMET with the ASEAN Association of Medical Laboratory Technologies or AAMLT. Worked for the adoption of PAMET hymn on November 22, 1989, hosted the second AAMLT conference, introduced PAMET to the different companies and well-known organizations, both local and international, which gained PAMET recognition from these companies and organizations. Legacy, image building. Marilyn R. Atienza. She worked for the close coordination of PAMET and PASMET, worked for the publication of laboratory news in Philippine Journal of Medical Technology, worked for the membership of PAMET to the ASEAN Association of Southeast Asia Medical Laboratory Science or AAMLS, worked for the sending of qualified medical technologists as scholars for the training program offered by the Japan International Medical Technology Foundation. Legacy, pro-activism.
Mrs. Norma N. Chang. She worked for the establishment of more PAMET chapters, She worked for the sending of scholars to the Japan International Medical Technology Foundation. She adopted the medical technology prayer. She sponsored a retreat from chief medical technologists, PAMET Board of Directors, PASMET, and MEDAP members for spiritual enrichment. One of her legacy is international leadership. Ms. Agnes B. Medinilla. She worked for the amendments of RA 005527 at the Congress of the Philippines. She maintained a close link with other professional associations by being an active member of the Council of Health Agencies of the Philippines, Council of Professional Health Association, and the Philippine Federation of Professional Associations. She worked for the approval of the 2002 PAMET Constitution and bylaws. And she also worked for the job fair activity for the newly registered medical technologists. And one of her legacy is the organizational dynamism.
Mrs. Shirley F. Rosada. She worked for the activation of inactive PAMET chapters during regional conferences and meetings. She maintained close relationship with PSP, PASMET, and CHED. Legacy: interdisciplinary networking. Mrs. Leila M. Florento. She continued to work in the interest of promoting excellence in the practice of medical technology. She organized different PAMET chapters. Legacy: beyond expectations.
Mr. Romeo Joseph Ignacio. He worked for the upliftment of the medical technology profession. Medical technologists soar higher through visibility, oneness, integrity, commitment, and excellence. Mr. Ronaldo E. Puno is the current National President of the Philippine Association of Medical Technologists. He is also actively involved in different international organizations such as the ASEAN Association for Clinical Laboratory Sciences and International Federation of Clinical Chemistry, among others.